Now from that high-end small car, we move on to one that's probably a little bit more practical for a lot more of you to consider. The Premier RIO. It's definitely a car that so many of you have been wanting to see on the program, so we do have it for you. We've been wanting to show it to you, in fact, for some time now. A lot of you know that I've already gone out there and ridden the car, thanks to Facebook. But here is the full review. It's very, very contextual because I know a lot of you actually want to own it. So let's get on with it and bring you all the details. It's great to see the Indian market opening up to not just new products day after day, but new segments too. The Premier RIO is indeed an unusual creature. It's part hatchback, part SUV, and no, it's not the Skoda Yeti. Call it the poor man's SUV if you like, but the RIO will certainly open up a new space in the consumer's mind, if not in the market itself. Premier has a tie-up with China's Zotier Auto. The Chinese manufacturer has licensed the previous generation of the Daihatsu Terios and sells it as the Nomad in China. In India, the badging will be RIO. So the kits come in from China and are assembled in this plant here, just outside Pune. So now we're bringing you into the plant itself for our first look at the RIO. At first glance, the vehicle is very much the typical sports utility vehicle. It's only when you get closer that you realize that it's actually quite compact. Well, it's a fairly contemporary name, the name RIO, and the Premier logo here right in the face of the vehicle is making a nice comeback to the Indian market. Now, the misconception a lot of people had was that Premier as a company had pretty much shut shop and gone away after the Padmini stopped being manufactured. But the company's been busy with other vehicles. You can see we're inside the assembling plant here, and there are the commercial vehicles as well that are being assembled here. So we thought we'll bring you a little glimpse of just what Premier is up to as well, besides actually talking about the RIO. Now, of course, the profile of the vehicle, the height, the overall shape and the proportions scream SUV, and that is the idea. So you also get nice big chunky alloys, fat tires as well, which is something that I like because frankly, when you think SUV, you need to have something like that, isn't it? A little bit of a little premiumness thrown into it because you've got chrome here on the door handles. You do have, again, this plastic cladding on the side. That works very well when you say SUV once again. See, the whole idea is to look at it and say, that's an SUV, and that's exactly what you achieve. So again, at the back, you have the vertical column as far as the tail lamp treatment is concerned, and of course, the huge spare wheel here with quite a nicely finished cover, I might add, and the Premier logo once again taking center stage there. So there's three variants, the EX, DX and LX. This one is not the base like the silver one. This is the DX, which is the mid-range. Looks nice in red, looks sporty, and the roof rails really add to that characteristic. So I think something I wanted to point out to you. So that's about it when it comes to the exterior styling. Well, in China, the Zotier Nomad is powered by a petrol heart, which came in with the license to make the Daihatsu Terios, which means it's a Japanese engine. But in India, Premier had to keep costs low, and so some localization was very, very crucial. Enter its own engine, the TUD engine that originally came from Peugeot. That's right, that's the engine from the failed Peugeot 304, which also was marketed by Premier. Premier has changed the cylinder dimensions though, and so it's almost like an original engine now. And in India, we love diesels, don't we? Come on in. Now, when you first heard it was Chinese, I know what you were thinking, that, what does that mean for quality of materials? Well, take it for yourself. Now, the overall appeal or the first impression you get from the way this dash and the overall interiors have been designed is that it looks like a shrunk down SUV. And I think that's a smart thing because from the outside, if you're giving the impression of this being an SUV, well, on the inside too, the central stack here and just the way that everything has been designed, it's a little bit big and chunky. I think that's good because it gives you that appeal, like I said. Now comes what about the plastic quality. Of course, it could have been better, but think about the kind of price point we're talking about. Take a look at the way the plastics are finished, and while it all may seem a little bit low on the actual quality of plastic, let me tell you, it's been put together pretty well. something that even I perhaps would not have expected at this price range. I mean, you've got cars like the Grande Punto, for example, which are meant to be more premium, which don't have great plastic quality. So really, you are seeing that plastic quality itself is not a problem here. There are a few little bits and pieces, like the way the gear shift has been put in here. It does have a little bit of a rattly quality to it when you're driving. You'll see that, of course, when we start moving. So there is a little irritant. I would say that the guys here at Premier could work a little bit more on the noise and vibration levels of the overall vehicle as well. But it is a diesel and you have to expect some of that. The other thing, it's a nice, simple and very sorted instrument cluster. No gimmicks, but you got pretty much everything that you need up here. The only grouse I have is that, well, for a very tall person, maybe this would not be the ideal driving position. However, the seat itself, I have to say, is pretty comfortable. Now, let's go to the back. Boot space. What? Were you expecting the boot space of a Land Cruiser? Of course not. I mean, this is a mini SUV for crying out loud. So don't compare it to other big SUVs, but if you compare it to a car at the same price point, let's say a large hatch, well, then you're pretty alright in terms of boot space. And take a look at this. Here's where, again, the plastic quality impressed me quite an extent. You do have this little broken up space here for storing various kinds of things. You can even use it for your groceries, frankly. And if you want, you can remove the entire tub and you get a much deeper boot as well for extra space. But speaking of extra space, let me show you something else. This is typical, of course, of all SUVs and most hatches these days as well. Pop that out and simply lift the seat bottom here. And the last step, bring this down. Well, what you get essentially, of course, you can do that with this seat as well. But the point I'm trying to show you is that you get a flat bed. And that means that if you want really a whole lot extra space, well, you can get that. And don't forget, you also have the SUV kind of height here. So plenty of cargo space, lots of options, lots that you can do here with the seats. The interiors are pretty impressive then. The good news is that the overall space and quality beats many hatches at the same price point. But now let's take the true test, out on the road. So just like all of you, I came into this drive with a lot of preconceived ideas about what this car is going to be all about. So very quickly, let's get rid of all the bad bits, because of course there are some bad bits, but don't forget that we're talking about a very different price point. So don't go comparing this with the Honda CR-V. Now, having said that, let's quickly talk about those bad points. Noise levels, I mentioned that earlier as well. Yep, it's a noisy AC and you got to get a little used to it. Once you do get used to it though, I have to say, it's not such an irritant at all. Then there comes the noise that's coming in from the engine compartment. It is of course a diesel, I know this, but just the sound damping could have been a little bit better, because yes, that is a little bit of an irritant. What's the good part? Well, the handling is a lot better than I expected it to be. The car is nimble, it turns well, it's got a tight turning radius as well. It feels a little bit light on its feet, but you get used to that as well. The handling is the highlight of this little car. The Rio is much more dynamic in its drive than expected. The fact that it is easy to drive also helps, since it will attract the breed of buyers who cannot handle the bulk of a typical entry SUV. The Rio is being brought in by Premier in its bid to revive its brand in the car space in India. After it stopped making the Padmini sedan, it actually remained pretty profitable as a components company, and it is this strength that will help it with its marketing plan for the Rio. The car is currently available in select areas like Gujarat and Maharashtra only. Premier is working on a detailed rollout plan for its own new dealerships that are expected all across the country. The car will be available countrywide by the end of the fiscal year, and yes, the prices start at 5,25,000 rupees. What Ferrari is to supercars, Ducati is to superbikes. The entire range is on offer, like I told you earlier, and which means that the prices range from about 10 lakh rupees to about 26 to 30 lakh rupees, depending on the model that you want. All of them are on offer, and I think that's pretty exciting stuff. Let's duck into a short break. We are back with a whole lot more on the program. Keep watching.